welcome back to the program. I hope you're all doing well. This week saw a massive escalation in the Ukrainian conflict, with Russia using for the first time an IRBM, an intermediate range ballistic missile in Ukraine. And let's have a look here at the images, the quite stunning images of this attack here on the city of Dnipro. Let's have a look here. And this attack happened during the night, a couple of days ago. And as you can see here, the missiles falling down on this city. So this IRBM is essentially one of the platforms that is used to carry nukes, but there was no payload on these missiles, so it was just the inert missiles that were used, but a massive escalation and show of force, and definitely a massive threat from the Russians against Ukraine and all of NATO, basically showing their capabilities and showing the world that the world is defenseless today against Russian missile technology. And these missiles, let's have a look here. We know more today about these missiles, new missiles called Oreshnik. As reported here 12 hours ago by the BBC, this image is actually of a Yars ICBM. So the Oreshnik would be a modified version of this to turn it into a intermediate range. ICBM would be a intercontinental. So, but basically it would be the same thing, except the range of the missile would be less. But essentially what we're talking about is a rocket going into space, unloading a payload, which is then slinged back down on Earth at a very, very high speed, as BBC reports here, at the speed of Mach 10. So about 3 kilometers per second. There is no defense system, aerial defense system, that can prevent this type of speed and this type of missile to actually striking its target. Let's have a look here. Today we have more infographics here sent, I believe, by Russia. This is coming from Russia. And it shows that essentially with this type of missiles, they would be able to strike major capitals within 20 minutes. London, Paris in 20 minutes, Berlin in 15, Warsaw in 12 minutes. And that coming very far from the front line in Ukraine. So perhaps if this was launched closer to the front line, it would be even faster for this type of missile to actually reach NATO countries. So massive escalation here, massive show of force from the Russian, upping the ante in this war. And this week has seen, as we've said earlier, a massive escalation. It has been ratcheting up all week. As you remember, at the beginning of this week, about 4 days ago, Joe Biden greenlit the use of ATACMs ballistic missiles in Russia, allowing Ukraine to use the ATACMs for long-range strikes into Russia. Long range, of course, it's within the capabilities of the ATACMs. So ATACMs, the Army tactical missiles, meaning these are short-range missiles with just a few hundred miles. But Joe Biden green-lighting the use of these missiles within Russian territory, and not just solely on Ukrainian territory that has been invaded by the Russians. So this was one of the red lines for Vladimir Putin. But ever since the beginning of the war, NATO has been pushing the red lines of the Russians, And now we're seeing a massive escalation here. So these ATACMs, of course, fired from the HIMARS systems that the US has supplied Ukraine. And now the Russians essentially, showing the capabilities that they have, showing NATO that they're not going to let NATO strike Russian territory without any retaliation. Now, of course, this comes on the heels of Donald Trump meeting Joe Biden in the White House last week and talking about the transition between the two administrations. So overall, it seems very unlikely that this subject would not have been talked about in this meeting. And now we're seeing a lot of people saying, oh, Joe Biden is trying to trigger World War III before he leaves office. But, if you consider all things, it's very unlikely that he would do it without the acknowledgement of Donald Trump, that he would put Donald Trump in sort of a perilous situation in such a dramatic conflict, and that he would take this decision unilaterally without first having, of course, met with Donald Trump. But we know that was the case, that they met, and we don't know what they talked about. But in this meeting, in this discussion, at least in front of the press, Donald Trump said the transition was going to be smooth. So you would assume that they were sort of seeing eye to eye, and there was not, the type of conflict that, Joe Biden would try to sabotage Donald Trump before he could come into the White House, especially on that. Not on that subject, perhaps on other subjects. Joe Biden would be interested in preventing Donald Trump from enacting his agenda. But here on that subject of Ukraine, this is actually more so the agenda of Joe Biden. Of course, the conflict having started under his presidency, and Donald Trump now coming in, promising to sort of bring an end to this conflict. Now we will see what will come out of that. But Donald Trump Jr., after Joe Biden had greenlit the use of ATACMs in Russia, Donald Trump Jr. here on Twitter saying the military-industrial complex seemed to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives. Gotta lock in those trillion, life be damned imbeciles. And, of course, you have to take this with a pinch of salt because, as I said, it's very unlikely that this decision would be taken without first having been greenlit by Donald Trump, essentially. And more likely, what we're seeing is Donald Trump trying to get the upper hand in the negotiation, sort of playing a game of good cop, bad cop, and having the outgoing president, Joe Biden, ratchet up the war so that Donald Trump would then come in January and have the upper hand in a negotiation for a ceasefire. So, and here you can see this article here on Fox. And it says, Biden helps Trump by unleashing ATACMs on Russia. Putting battlefield pressure on Russia is essential for any negotiation. So perhaps this is what we are witnessing now. And here on Fox saying, no, the ATACM strike is not the start of World War III. Let's hope that they are right, and let's hope that is the strategy. But most likely, this is what they are trying to do. Joe Biden is trying to leave a sort of a position of negotiation, a position of strength for the next administration to be able to negotiate some kind of deal between Russia and Ukraine. So we will have to see what will come out of that. But rest assured that this week saw a massive escalation in this conflict. Now, we are about a couple of months now away from the inauguration of Donald Trump on January 20th. So this is going to be some very long weeks here. If the conflict ratchets up like that, just in 1 week now, we're seeing major red lines being crossed on both sides. With the ATACMs on the American side, the Storm Shadows being also used by the Ukrainians against Russia, and now Russia using an IRBM, a intermediate range ballistic missile, for the first time in history. This has never happened before. We've never seen this type of weapon used in any conflict. And this is a type of weapon that was banned under the INF Treaty between Russia and the US. And this treaty expired in 2019. And now we're seeing this type of weapon used for the first time. So things are moving very fast in this conflict. And let's hope cooler heads prevail, and we will have to monitor this situation and see what happens. But a very dangerous strategy here by all involved. And it was said that Russia gave sort of a early warning to the US, did not even give a word to any European countries, but they had like 30 minutes warning to the US or something like that before this weapon was used. But this is definitely a very big escalation. So things are getting a little bit out of hand here. We will have to see in the next week. Let's hope that the situation calms down a little bit. But we will have to see. Rest assured that we will be covering on the channel everything that's going to happen. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with the latest information. And leave a like on this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Hit me with that like and